On my last video, I went through how to wire up one of these things using the screw terminal hats that just plug straight down onto the board there. And I mentioned the plug-in and how to get that in the Mach 3 plugins folder, but I glanced over a lot. So this is going to be hopefully a quick video on getting the plugin into the right folder, and then telling Mach 3 that the next time you start, go look for a new motion controller plugin. So on the E3000, or E3000, I'm sorry, that's a spindle. On the UC300, the UC100, the 400, USBs and stuff, the plugin is available for download at cncdrive.com. So when you go to CNC Drive, then you go to products, you can scroll down here, find which product you have, and when you click on that, we have the downloads here. So you've got product manual, automatic installer, which I don't recommend for anything Ethernet, but you can still do it and it still does its job. But there is a straight plugin for Mach 3, and if you click on that, it wants you to download this M3P file. And there's also a software prerequisite. And if you click on that, it downloads a .NET FX 2.0.exe file. So if we go through this process, and let's just say you have a Windows 10 machine, or I think even Windows 8 or 7 may do this as well. But you go through this process of downloading the plugin folder or file, getting it installed into the plugins folder, and then when you launch Mach 3, it comes back and it gives you a couple errors. One of them being this plugin will be ignored. I don't remember the other ones. That's because you need the .NET 2.0 framework installed in Windows. So if you download this file here, you can come over here and get it. And what this is it's a small file that requires internet access to that machine, to where when you double click on the exe file, it will go out and download the rest of the files required for the .NET 2.0 framework. So unfortunately, that's kind of a pain in the ass. You have to have internet connection. But so let's say we downloaded this M3P file, and I don't have to do this because I've already got it on my machine. Alright, so now if we go to our desktop, and here's that M3P file. Not to be confused with MP3, but when you double click on this file will go away. So if you're ever, I recommend you always take all the files that you use to set up your machine and save them. So make a copy of this file somewhere else. So when you double click on this file will disappear off of your desktop or wherever you downloaded it from. And what it does is it copies this file, or this whole file, but it changes the M3P to DLL and puts it in the Mach 3 plugins folder. And if we go and check, so we're over here, so let's bring this over here. Now this is my work computer, so I've got a bunch of stuff on here, but here's our Mach 3 folder. Then if we go look in the plugins folder, you can see that I have that file name .dll. Now these other ones here, .old, those are files that I have been testing, plugins I've tested, and you only want the DLL files here that pertain to your machine. If you have multiples here, it can kind of get confused, so I just right click them, rename them, and change the DLL file to old. And also the automatic installer will also throw a couple different DLL files in here, so you want to go in here and delete them and make sure that you only have the one that pertains to the hardware that you have. So you can have the UC100, you can have the UC300 USB, you can have the UC300 Ethernet, so on and so forth. But let's say, for example, that you're dealing with one of these China machines, and let's see if I can find it. Mach3, see if it's not in there. And I'm sorry this is not screen captured. I'm using my phone to video this because I just like to make quick videos to get the information out. I know it's in here somewhere. There's the install file. We don't want that. Yeah, I hate dealing with these things, but it is what it is. So it's going to be somewhere in here. All right, so in this instance, this DLL file is the plugin, and for this specific controller, it's ncusbpod.dll. You can right click on that, go to copy, and then go and find our C mach3 plugins, right click and paste. So now we have this file up here. And the file name you kind of want to keep an eye on, because in the next couple processes you have to choose the right plugin. So I'm just going to delete this because I don't need that in there. So you get the file installed, but when you go and open Mach3, and I'm just going to use this 4030 router profile. So this one actually popped up saying you have motion controller, but if we choose normal printer port, click that, click OK. 9 times out of 10, when you're at your machine, you're going to open your Mach3 and you don't get that box that pops up. And if you come up here to plugin control, you can see all we have is video window. So if you copied the DLL file over there, or you double click the M3P file, what we have to do is we have to tell Mach3 to look for another motion controller. We do that by coming up here to the function CFG, and when you go on that, you go all the way down to reset device selected. It's going to come up and give you this message. Just go ahead and click OK and then close. And then yes, end session. So the next time you open your Mach3, you get this legal notice. Check this, do not ask me again, and then agree to the terms of this agreement. And then you get this box that pops up, and here is the same file name as our DLL file most of the time. So you can choose that by clicking that radio button, and if you don't want that window to pop up, you can click Don't Ask Me Again, which this computer is not hooked to anything physical as far as CNC hardware goes. So I'm not going to do that. Now when you click OK, I'm getting this error message because, like I said, there's nothing there. And then you should be able to go up to plugin control and see this UC300 in and out monitor. Now if I click on this, I don't have anything here because I don't have hardware. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and close that, and we're going to spin over to my machine over here. So this is hooked up to that mill and that controller. So if we go to plugin control, go to the in and out monitor, hopefully, let me rephrase that. Hopefully whatever hardware you have as far as breakout board, motion controller, you should have something in here that can show you that something is happening. So here I've got output states. This output 17, that's a safety charge pump. That's a signal that goes to the breakout board. So it goes to that board to tell it Mach3 is open, we can move. So that board will go green, just like in my other video. We have input states, status, and this is the big thing. So if we can see this number here, we're at idle, We see this number here. This tells us that we're getting communication from this computer, which is that little guy there, down to that. And we can also move. So if I jog down, I say that, and so when we jog, we can see that we get a run and a jog signal. The input states, if we look at the input states, I know that I have, let's see. So on that pin 15, I'm pushing my tool probe, which is on port 1, pin 15, and we can see that that's actually being seen by the UC300 motion controller. If I press my X-axis home switch, I can see that pin 13 is activating, which my X home switch is on pin 13. So that's what I left out on the last video about wiring up a breakout board with a motion controller, and I mentioned about the plug-in and where to put it, but I did not go into detail of what all is required to copy the plug-in to the mach3 folder, or if it's an M3P file. So if we look here, I have a DLL file here for a UC300 Ethernet with a version. So if I wanted to test this version of the plugin, I would just copy this, since it's a DLL file, into the mach3 plugins folder. If it's an M3P file, double click on it, the file disappears of wherever it's located, and you get the DLL file in the plugins folder. So I hope this eliminates some confusion, trying to keep it short and sweet. So there you go. Hope it helps. If it helps one person out there, then it's worth my while.